Chapter 2, Lesson 3 is percents and decimals. In the warm-up, it says, at baseball practice, Neil caught 15 out of 20 hits to the outfield. We want to write this decimal as a percent. Oh, write it as a decimal and as a percent, and we want to know what do we notice. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write this ratio, 15 out of 20, as a fraction. So 15 out of 20 is written 15 over 20. Very good. And now we want to write this as a decimal. So in order for us to write this as a decimal, we want to change the denominator to 10, 100, or 1,000, right? So here we can multiply times 5 and times 5 here, and that will give us 75 over 100. Very good. Now, of course, 75 over 100, that's 75 hundredths. As a decimal, that would be 0.75. Very good. 0.75. Now, it also asks us to write it as a decimal. As a percent. So here, if I have 75 hundredths, that's already 75 per 100, right? So the percent is going to be what? 75%. Very good. Now, what do you notice about these two numbers? So what you can notice here is that the decimal here in 75 hundredths is between the 0 and the 7. And then if we moved that decimal to the right 2 places, that would give us the 75%. Is everybody clear with that? All right. So now we're going to write percents as decimals. We're going to write percents as decimals. So to write a percent as a decimal, we want to divide by 100 and remove the decimal sign, the percent sign. So this is the same as moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. Okay? So 48%, your decimal is located right at the end of the number. And if I want to change that percent to a decimal, I just need to move the decimal 2 places to the left, and that gives me 0.48 as a decimal. The other way, we've already learned this, another way to write a fraction as a decimal is to write the percent as a fraction. And remember, percent means per 100, right? And then we'll write that fraction as a decimal, okay? Because now it has a denominator of 100. That's the second way. So, for example 1, we want to write each percent as a decimal. Write each percent as a decimal. So, once again, here, if my decimal, or my percent is 56%, so I first want to write it as a fraction. So 56% is written as 56 over 100. So that's 56 hundredths, which gives us 0.56. The other way is just to take that decimal and move it 2 places to the left. And that gives us the 56 hundredths also. So here, D stands for decimal, P stands for percent. We're going from percent to decimal, so we're going, see the arrow? We're going from right to left. So we're just going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So for example 2, we have 8%. For 8%, 8 per 100, that's 8 over 100. And that's 8 hundredths, which is 0.08. And once again, you could also just take that decimal that's right at the end of the whole number, and we can move it 2 places to the left. What do I do with this right here. That blank space right there. What do I do with that? You're going to add a 0, and you'll end up, take away the percent sign, you'll end up with 0.08. Is everybody clear with that? Same thing, example 3, we're going to take that decimal, which is at the end of the whole number, of the percent, and we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. And then we're going to take away the percent sign, and we end up with 0.02. Is everybody clear? All right. So let's do these problems together. So for letter A, problem A, let's do it the fraction way. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is we want to write that percent as a fraction. So 32% is 32 over 100. 32 over 100. And now we're not going to simplify because we want the the fraction to be over 100, right? So that says 32 hundredths. So how do I write 32 hundredths as a decimal? 0.32. And it's as simple as that. Is everybody clear? What's even simpler is that when we're changing from a percent to a decimal, which way do we move the decimal? To the left. How many times? Twice. So here we're going to take this decimal that's right there at the end, and we're going to move that decimal 2 places to the left. And what do I do with this empty space right here? You're going to add a 0, and don't forget, we're going to take away the percent sign. Our final answer here is not 0.6, 0.06. Is everybody clear? Don't forget, you need to add that 0. For 93%, you guys go ahead and do that one. So, for 93%, we're going to move the decimal to the left 2 places, take away the percent sign. So my final decimal then, 0.93. Very good. Right. So now we're going to write decimals as percents. We're going to write decimals as percents. Please make sure you write your heading and the rule. To write a decimal as a percent, now we're going to multiply by 100 and add a percent sign. So if I'm multiplying, which way am I moving the decimal? To the left or to the right? To the right. Very good. Here, this is the same as moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So here is the little memory device here. We're going from decimals to percent, right? You see the arrow? If I'm going from decimal to percent, I'm moving 2 places to the right. And now another way to write a decimal as a percent is to write the decimal as a fraction with a denominator of 100 and then write the fraction as a percent. Okay, so that's another way that we've been working with these. So, for example 4, there's 2 methods. We can first write the decimal as a fraction. So we've got 0.38, if I read it correctly, is 38 hundredths. So that's 38 over 100. Now, this is 38 per 100, right? So that means 38%. Is everybody clear? All right. And then for method 2, you can just move the decimal point. Move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So the decimal moves 2 places to the right, and we end up with 38%. Here, we can write 2/10 as a fraction. We can either move it 2 places to the right, move the decimal 2 places to the right, and what am I going to get there? 20%, right? If I move the decimal to the right. Here, what they did was they took the 2/10, wrote it as a fraction, and then scaled forward. So here, we multiply times 10 in the numerator and the denominator, and we get 20 over 100, which gives us 20%. So let's do these got it problems. Problem D is 47 hundredths. We want to write this as a decimal, or the decimal as a percent. And once again, if I'm going from decimal to percent, so we're going to move to the right 2 places. So let me rewrite my 0.47. Okay, actually let's do this one as the fraction first. So 0.47 is 47 hundredths, right? So that's going to be 47 over 100. That's 47 hundredths, right? And to write 47 hundredths, we write 0.47. Very good. Okay? And now, with these two, let's just use our easier way, right? Just moving the decimal 2 places to the right. Very good. And then we have to make sure you add the percent sign, right? So here, 0.73, we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right, and we'll add the decimal. So this is going to be, add the percent sign. This is going to be 73%, because we just moved the decimal 2 places to the right. Is everybody clear with that? And then for this one, move the decimal 2 places to the right, and what do I do over here? You add a 0, very good, and then we can put our percent sign on. So this is going to be 50%. Beautiful. All right, going back to problem D, it has brought to my attention, Mrs. Hart, you're supposed to write this as a percent. And what did I write it as? A decimal. So I would have gotten that wrong on a test, right? So this is 47 per 100, right? So that's going to be 47%. Very good. Good catch. All right, example 6 says the United States produces more corn than any other country, producing 4/10 of the total corn crops. We want to write 0.4 as a percent. So here we've got 0.4. We're going to move that decimal 2 places to the right. Don't forget you need to add that 0 and then add the percent sign. So this is going to be 40%. Okay? The other way is to write 4/10. That would be 4/10 as a fraction. But then we would scale forward by multiplying times 10, and that would give me 40 over 100, which gives me 40% also. Is everybody clear with that?